Hey, it's Aaron, and today we're going to talk a little bit about the United Auto Workers strike, and I'm just so happy to talk about this. Obviously, you can tell that I'm a little bit ecstatic because it's about time that General Motors finally felt a little tiny bit of their own fucking medicine, because they are honestly some of the worst dregs of human society in existence, possibly ever to have existed, because of what they've done to our economy and to the workforce in general. Now, way back in 2008 and 2009, if you'll remember, we actually had to bail these motherfuckers out because them, along with the too big to fail banks, crashed our economy and sent us into an economic recession, the likes of which we have never seen since, I think it was 1930, and we are still trying to see a recovery from that with no avail. And during that time, we had to do something because obviously GM was too big to fail, the banks were too big to fail. We had to make sure that there was some sort of action that had to be taken so we could save these companies, because if we didn't, the entire economy would crash through the floor. So Canada, me, as a taxpayer, had to pay them something to the tune of $14 billion. But the United States ended up suffering far, far more. They had to pay something to the tune of $49.5 billion to save this failing company that took us into a downward spiral, into the dystopic hellscape that we are entering into now. Absolutely unbelievable. And it goes even further to being even more unbelievable when you find out that in 2014, after still not fully paying back any of the loan that we gave them, they made a record profit of $22 billion. Now, that's way back in 2014, so we can assume that in the subsequent years since then, they've probably at least doubled that income, considering they're one of the top companies in all of the United States, one of the top auto manufacturers in the entire United States. So, clearly, they're not doing that badly. They're doing very well. And the rest of us had to suffer because they took us down with them. They crashed the economy, and we are the ones that end up paying for it. They privatized the gains, socialized the losses, as is with every business in the capitalist industry. You have to understand, capitalists have absolutely no problem with socialism, so long as it's socializing the losses and privatizing the gains for themselves. So, all that being said, all of that lovely news being said, how they destroyed our economy, now the United Auto Workers has finally decided to do a bit of a strike against them. So for the last couple of weeks now, all of these workers that were working at GM actually went and took to the streets and said, "Fuck you, we're not taking this anymore." And that's commendable. Something around 50,000 workers went on strike, shutting down 34 factories. And basically this was all happening in part because they want more money, they want better stock options, but GM, in its infinite wisdom, in its infinite fuckery, has been employing part-time workers for years now and having them working full-time hours without giving them full-time employment. Because they're a capitalist industry. If they can get away with it, you're fucking right, they absolutely will. And that's exactly what they've done. So the GM workers and the United Auto Workers got together and went on strike. They said, "Fuck you guys, we're not going to take this anymore." And they actually marched out into the streets and picked up their signs and said, "No more." And I find that absolutely commendable. It warms my heart to the deepest depths of my cockles. You have no idea. And it's so wonderful to actually see this kind of action taking place right now, because for years, we've seen a decline in any sort of solidarity when it comes to the workers, when it comes to any sort of industry or collective bargaining effort. We've seen a degradation of all of those things for years now. And now that we're trying to finally see, now that we're finally starting to see these industries starting to come back, these groups of people starting to band together and say, "No more, we're not going to take this anymore," it is so empowering. It is so absolutely unbelievable, and it's so fantastic, and we need more of it. We need more of it all across the entire spectrum. We don't just need it in the auto worker sector, we need it everywhere. And we have been seeing it in a lot of other places, as with the teacher strikes and a lot of other things that have been going on lately. So it's so nice to finally see this spike that's finally happened in worker solidarity that we haven't seen since the 1970s. This is the largest strike since the 1970s, and that says a lot. That says a great deal about how we're actually making real strides right now to actually fix the system. And it's up to you and I to do it. It's up to the workers, the people, to actually make that difference and make that change. And we're doing it. We're doing a great job of it too. Because it just so happens that some numbers were recently released by JP Morgan that said that the strike so far, only about a couple of weeks in, a little more than 2 weeks in, has cost GM over $1 billion. Now that's a number that just fills your tummy. It's just yummy in your tummy. I love it. I love it. This is absolutely fantastic. Solidarity with all the workers that are out there on strike, and solidarity with every other union or worker collective that is getting together and actually trying to make real action in real life and making that fucking change, because it has to be us. It has to be you. It has to be me. And we have to get out there and we have to do this kind of stuff. So thank you very much to everybody out there who's been working hard, who's been getting out into the streets and actually taking action into their own hands and saying, I'm not gonna fucking take this anymore. So congratulations to you. Absolutely wonderful. Stay strong, stay steadfast. You can do this, and hopefully we won't have to just watch GM wait this fucking thing out so they can continue to make their record profits. One last thing before I go. In a capitalist system, it honestly makes me sick to my stomach that when workers are being exploited, when workers are being taken advantage of, and when workers feel as though they are unable to have any sort of collective bargaining rights in their job, in their place of employment, all the company has to do is just wait it out. If the workers go on strike, they just sit back and they say, you know what? I'm sure we have more savings than these workers do. We just wait it out and hope that they run out of their savings and they start to starve before they just come back, crawling back to us, so we can give them their little jobs back and maybe give them a little less because they pissed us off. That's what in the United States, that's what businesses can do when workers go on strike. That's what happens when people in desperation go out into the streets to actually get what they deserve, to collectively bargain what they should have got years ago. The industry can just sit back and laugh at them and wait them out and hope and just assume that they're going to be too tired, too destroyed, too broke to even continue to carry on. And I don't want any of you to end up in that situation. So any groups that are out there, any socialist, anarchist, DSA groups, Food Not Bombs, anything like that, hopefully people are getting together and making sure that these workers, these people that are going on strike, these comrades are being well taken care of. Because that's what we need to see right now. We need to see solidarity, not just among these workers, but among the community as well, helping out these workers. It isn't enough that we stand in solidarity, but we also make sure that we help them and change this stigma that people have against striking workers and turn it into something not that we should demonize, but something that we should glorify, like we always should have. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. My name is Aaron. If you do get a chance, please check me out on Patreon. Every dollar really does help fund this show. Thanks for watching.